Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Getting into August here, and I looked at the weather forecast in advance. We're not supposed to hit 90 degrees in the next given 10-day period or 15-day period, whatever I looked at. So I thought to myself, maybe it's possible we won't hit 90 degrees anymore. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of high heat and humidity, and I'm not a big fan of cold. I want everything right in the middle. Doesn't happen all the time, that is. So listen, I was thinking about our message today and how we have focused in upon God including people in His truth that traditionally general Christianity, and I would say especially Cave Hill, has not included. People make fun of the Baptists all the time and say that the Baptists say that they're the only ones going to heaven. I can't tell you exactly who's going to heaven and who's not going to heaven. I can know by the fruits of somebody's study time and how they live their lives and the things that they tell me they believe, who is practicing a Jesus Christian based faith and who is not. Jesus is maybe not the best word to use there, but Christ based faith, we'll say that, and who is not. And sometimes it gets a little challenging. And I was watching a video this week, and who here has seen Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail? And then in this video, this guy was throwing out insults to somebody, and this has nothing to do with the faith. I just thought it was really funny. But one of the insults is he told these people that their mother was a hamster. And I thought, yeah, that's classic Monty Python right there. But another part of that same thing did make me think about religion and faith and how we are constantly, not we, let's back up and say that, in the Bible, I talked about Claudius a few weeks ago being a polytheist, and there's Jews, and there's people who straddle the line in between, and then there's people who are 100% Christians. It's a conglomeration, right? And so everybody was pointing fingers at everybody during this time frame, and what we're reading and talking about right now. And so who's who and who is what? Well, in that movie Monty Python, they were trying to decide who's a witch and who's not, right? What did they do with witches back in the day? Well, they burned them at the stake. So it was kind of a big deal if someone accused you of being a witch. And these people accused this lady of being a witch in the movie. If you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And she says, I'm not a witch. And I said, oh, I think we are. Well, we have to put you to the test. Well, what's the test? Well, we'll throw you in the pond, and if you float, you're a witch. But if you sink and drown, well, you're not a witch. Okay. So either way, I'm going to die, right? And I feel like that's the quandary, and which is the word that I used 2 weeks ago, and I think I even used it last week too. But that's the quandary that these people are finding themselves in whenever they try to claim any level of faith. Well, yeah, we believe like the Jews, but we also believe like the Christians. And wait a second, it's just Jews are around? Well, we only believe like the Jews. We don't believe like those Christians. Wait a second, if the Christians are around? Well, we don't believe the way the Jews do. We believe like the Christians. So you find yourself in this odd little circle. And when you read in the Bible here, you have to pay attention to find out who it is that is truly a blessed individual or a blessed faith, a blessed group, that is going to find themselves in the New Jerusalem someday. Some will find themselves, real quick in a brief one, some will find themselves, we've got it up here. Heaven is from here and above. That's what this graphical representation shows. Boom, heaven. So what is in heaven? Well, there's the new heaven. There's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. Well, there we go. Here's the new earth. here's the new heaven called the New Jerusalem. And then there's, down here. Whoops, sorry. That's not a graphical line. This one is. So people will live in either a part of the new earth or they will live a part of the New Jerusalem, because heaven is going to be divided in between the two. And then there's hell down below. So when we read these things, you have to decide where these people are going to go. And that when you can understand that, you start understanding God's truth a little bit more. So we read here, and the problem is, it was difficult back then. It's difficult today. But the answers are there. You just have to read and start using deductive reasoning as to who belongs to what group. So I read one, I was reading last week, and that it ended up taking me over here into Romans. And I thought, when did we last read Romans chapter 2? And I read the words, and they're so familiar to me. Like they just rolled off of my tongue. But yet I look back at my notes, and I don't even see when we last read this, unless I don't even see it at all, anytime like in the last few months. So I'm not going to read all of it to you. If you want to read all of it, you can. But I do like this first part here. I'm going to focus in. I'm going to tell you where we're focusing. 17 through 29 of Romans chapter 2. So we're going to focus today on Romans chapter 2, 17 through 29. But I want you to see a little bit of the beginning of this. And there's a lot of reading today. Sorry. There's a lot of reading. So I don't want to bore you with that. But I want you to listen. It starts off, it says, "Therefore thou art inexcusable, O man, whosoever thou art that judgest. For wherein thou judgest another, thou condemnest thyself. For thou that judgest does the same thing. But we are sure that the judgment of God is according to truth against them which commit such things. And thinkest thou this, O man, that thou judge them which do such things, and does the same, that thou shalt escape the judgment of God?" You see what I'm saying? These are people out there making accusations against other groups of people, but yet they themselves are convicted just by making the accusations. Because they're guilty as the ones to whom they are pointing the finger at. This is where you say, well, who has it right? I don't know. I do know. Verse 9 says, "Tribulation and anguish upon every one." Don't know what your Bible says, but the Greek translation says translation is tribulation and anguish upon every one that doeth evil, of the Jews first and of the Gentiles. The propensity is there for anyone to do both evil and good. But glory and honor and peace to every man that worketh good, to the Jew first, and also of the Gentile. Who's going to heaven? Answer that question to yourself, not to me. Answer the question, who's going to heaven? Is it the Jews or is it the Gentiles? Is it the heathen nation or is it the Jewish lawkeeper nation? Well, I would tell you, I'll go ahead and give you my answer. I would tell you, neither one. Neither one. The one that's going to go to heaven is the one who understands that you go to heaven through the power of the blood of Christ. Who participates in the power of the blood of Christ? Are there Jews? Yes. Are there Gentiles? Yes. So it's not, I'm born into a particular genealogy. It's that I have a particular faith that God has called me to. All right? So ask yourself today, am I going to heaven? Am I going to heaven? Well, I've got my answer, but I'll tell you, I don't know. I don't know. Are you? And then you start asking yourself a lot of these questions. Do you follow after the Jewish faith? No. Do you keep some of the Jewish faith? Well, yeah, just because it's right, it's good, it's moral. Do you keep all the Jewish faith? No. Well, why not? Well, because some of it is not even necessary. Some of it we have liberties. Well, do you follow after the heathen nations? No, I don't. Okay, so you're reformed. Different Reformation. But you're reformed. Yeah. See, there's this quandary that's thrown out there that you can't point a finger and say definitively yes and definitively no based upon someone's practice of a nation. So God deals with us individually, and he makes you a part of a group of people. He pulls you out as a remnant from each one of them. And he sets you with like faith and practice of people. Not shackled with a yoke of people who are not of like faith and practice. So let's read on and try to get more into the meat of today. I'm going to give you the answer to the test again, okay? We're going to start off talking about Jewish people. And by the end of the day, when we are in John chapter 10, we're going to be talking about people who have had sight given to them, whether they be Jews or whether they be Gentiles. We're going to start talking about people who lived a life before Christ, but yet died before Christ was here, and therefore died without the blood protection of Christ, but yet have been preached the gospel and wherever they're standing that they're at right now, whether that be in, well, I will tell you it's in paradise. And here's a funky word, one not for the day, but you realize that Gehenna, Sheol, the grave, is a part of paradise? So they're in paradise, and when Christ went down, he preached unto them. So start with me, so this begins to make some sense. In Romans chapter 2, verse 17. So I read the beginning of this. Thou art not excusable, O man that judgest, because this is specifically talking about Jews and Gentiles. So we get over here, and it's still doing the same. So I want you to know that, and that's why I read the beginning. Behold, thou art called a Jew, and you rest, you take comfort, you sit on your laurels in the fact that you can be a good law keeper. So that's why it says, thou art called a Jew, and rest in the law, and makest thy boast of God. Look how good of a child of God I am because I keep the law. What law? The law of God that you and I talk about today? No, they're talking about the law of Moses, or the Jewish law that Christ would have died in vain if salvation were found in it. Christ did not die in vain. Christ died and said, I am the way, the truth, the life, and you only come to God by me. But yet the Jews, they rest in that old law. what is it? I don't know. It's a lot of stuff, people. Well, it's a whole religion in itself. And knowest his will, and approvest the things that are more excellent, being instructed out of the law. What does that mean? That means out of the books of the law, they have been told what the rules are, and they keep them. So what am I telling you they are? I'm telling you they're really good law keepers of God's truth. They're lovers of God, certainly. And they've been instructed, they've been taught. And they heed those things that they have been taught. And they do them. So they're law-keeping Jews. And because of this, they are confident and art confident that thou thyself art a guide of the blind and a light of them which are in darkness. Am I going too slow for you? I want you to understand what we're reading here. Some of this stuff, especially in the King James Version, it starts sounding a little Old Englishly like, and you're not quite sure, what does that mean? That I've been instructed out of the law. It means I'm not in the law anymore? No, it means you've been instructed out of the books, the very books that contain the laws, and you now know them, and you keep them, and you abide by them. And you are so good at doing it that you're really confident that you're going to be able to take this knowledge that you have and teach it to other people. And say, listen, you're walking around in darkness, but I've got the light for you. Just as confident as we walk today in our faith, they walk in their faith. So verse 19 again says, talking about those Jews, and that you are confident that you yourself are a guide of the blind and a light to them which are in darkness. And an instructor, goes on, they're even so good that they can be an instructor of the foolish, a teacher of babes that has the form of knowledge and of the truth in the law. Thou therefore which teachest another, teachest thou not thyself, that thou preachest a man should not steal. Do you not steal? They're first going to say, no, I don't. Yes, I am someone who's really good that I can teach other people. And I would tell them, the law says, you shall not steal. So don't steal. We know stealing to be what? Taking something that doesn't belong to you. You don't go into the store and get goods out of the store and walk out without paying for them. That's stealing. You don't go to your neighbor's house when they're on vacation in Florida and take anything that you want. That's stealing. But is it also not stealing whenever you claim something from God that He didn't give you? When you have, in reality, maybe unbeknownst to you, but in reality, have claimed hold of a heavenly home that God hasn't given to you, and you're teaching other people, hey, here is the way, here is the truth, here is the life, and it's not true. You've stolen that reward and are offering it as though it's something that you can give. So when you look at some of these laws that are broken, look beyond the common definition. What is stealing? Well, my brain immediately goes to taking something from a store that you didn't pay for. That's stealing. What if someone has a love for XYZ? I don't know. But what if they have, this is a stretch, but I'm trying to get your mind to stretch. What if you have a love for the Dallas Cowboy football team? They are your team. Dallas Cowboy room. You drive a blue and silver pickup truck. You love the Dallas Cowboys. And then all of a sudden says, you really love the Dallas Cowboys? Do you have any idea how many people on their team have committed felonies? And do you know I'm going to stretch here for some people. You know, they have the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders they're designed to go out there to create lust. You can go on about the Dallas Cowboys and what a horrible moral team they are, to where you get the person who's saying, ooh. So you have stolen away that love from them. You have taken something that they cherished in their heart, and you have tainted it with enough lies or truths that they no longer want to be associated with it. I would tell you that you have then stolen away their love for a team. So it's greater than just going to the store and taking something. So listen as we read on about this exact same theme. So I'll go back and I'll start at 21. Thou therefore, which teaches another, teachest not thyself. You don't teach, you teaching other people, but you're not teaching yourself, because I'm seeing that you're guilty. Teachest thou not thyself that thou preachest a man should not steal? Don't you steal? Thou that sayest a man should not commit adultery, dost thou not commit adultery? Thou that abhorrest idols, dost thou not commit sacrilege? Thou that makest thy boast of the law, through breaking the law, dishonorest thou God. Don't you know that? Don't you know that your boastfulness of this law and your breaking of that law, it dishonors God? You're telling this to somebody who's beating on their chest and talking about what a great person they are. Wait a second. This is the quandary that I'm talking about. You're telling me I'm a really, really good Jew and I'm doing it right, but yet I'm dishonoring God? Do you see how the story of the woman getting thrown in the pond, whether she floats or not, if she's a witch, whether I'm a good person and do the great things of the Jewish faith, I then become someone who God will not look at and say, that's whom I'm well pleased? How is it that I do what it is I'm supposed to do, and you say that dishonors God? Well, maybe because you're doing it not in the way in which God has instructed. God has instructed through his Bible that we find honor before God through Christ, not through our diligence and dutifulness to the law. Because if Christ, and I believe he is, if Christ truly is that person, and you marry yourself unto anyone other than Christ, or if you, well, let me go back up a little bit. If you claim to have heaven as your heavenly home, and that we know that it's only by Christ that you would find that, but yet then you end up claiming it by something else, you are committing adultery spiritually. The only proper marriage is through Christ, not through the law and your own self. 26 says, okay, yeah. No, I'm going to read 25. For circumcision truly or verily profiteth. Okay. Did you hear what I said? Yeah, it's a good thing. If you're keeping the law, if that's your intent, your desire, and that's how you get your pleasure before God, then you better do it, because that's what you're claiming, right? For circumcision truly profiteth if thou keep the law. But if thou be a breaker of the law, your circumcision is made into uncircumcision. You are not doing what it is that the law says you have to do. Therefore, if the uncircumcision keep the righteousness of the law, shall not his circumcision be counted? To say it wrong? Okay. Therefore, if the uncircumcised keeps the righteousness of the law, if they do with the things that are of the law, shall not the fact that he is uncircumcised be counted as circumcision? Because he did everything that was necessary to keep the law, and you're trying to say that your circumcision, even though you broke the law, is still valid. Well, what about the other way around? The uncircumcised, who is keeping the law, are they not valid? What is this telling you? This is telling you that the rightful claim unto the New Jerusalem is not by human gifting. It's by God. You say, well, I think I've got the key. I know what I'm talking about. Listen to me and I'll explain it to you. God is the one. Who has the mind of God? So we go on. It says, as we read, 27, and shall not uncircumcision, which is by nature, if it fulfill the law, judge thee, who by the letter of circumcision does transgress the law? For he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outwardly in the flesh. But he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter of the law, whose praise is not of men, but of God. Okay. In a nutshell, from 17 through 29, what this is saying is, I don't care what faith you're following. If you do not have the law of God as your compass, then you do not have the right to claim heaven. No matter which side that you are on. I asked you earlier today, who's going to heaven, right? The Jews or the Gentiles? Well, neither one of them. It's the ones to whom God has pulled out as a remnant from both of those and has given the grace, has given the protection of the blood of Christ to, and that they have received it and comprehended. So, churches in general want to be so arrogant to say, we're the ones going to heaven. You better come and listen to us. You better worship here because we have it right. I hope we do. I believe we do, or I wouldn't be here, right? But more importantly, I'm not the potter. I don't have the mind of God. I preach and teach what it is that God gives me to give to you all. And, gosh, I hope I'm right. I hope Satan never, ever infiltrates my mind, pulls me in a direction that's wrong. The only thing I'm saying is we have to trust in Christ. We don't get to be instructed out of the law, or we don't get to be instructed out of the books of the law to have, hey, tell me again, how do I go to heaven? Well, you follow all of these rules that I've given you and you can go to heaven. No, we're not rule followers to get to heaven. We are followers of Christ to get to heaven. We have I got ready to say seasons or moments of sin in our lives that would prevent us from heaven. But we have it every day. He said, oh, no, I don't sin every day. Okay, I do. I do, even if it's of the mind only. But I've got Christ. That is the hinge or the fulcrum of faith. So, the Bible talks an awful lot about the Jews that we have for years not given much credence to. But I want you to know that it's not just between the Gentiles and the Jews. This is a meshing of all kinds of people that we haven't even talked about identification of. We've got people who died before Christ came. We got people who live today who have the opportunity to walk in the day. We have people who are going to live or be born, live, and die in a post-tribulational time period. We have people who will live and die in this 1,000 years. We got people who will live and die in this season of time. All of those have their own unique relationship with God. I mean, it doesn't change, but it's unique in its time frame. You say, how can someone accept Christ when Christ had not yet been manifested? Well, yes, you can, and it happens. So turn with me over here into John. I'm going the wrong way. Sometimes my brain just starts turning pages, and it's not in the right direction. John chapter 10. Let me read you a story, okay? Everybody needs to know Bible stories. This is in John chapter 9. I know I said 10, but go backwards into 9 with me, and let's just read a story, all right? Pretend like this is Netflix, and I'm telling you a story now, okay? I'll do my best to read it without any commentary, but I want you to hear the story about this blind man. And then all of a sudden, people are coming and they're saying, hey, how did you get healed? Well, this guy made a paste and put on my eyes. And I went to wash where he told me to go wash, and I could see. And they're like, oh, no. So we called his parents up, and his parents said, hey, this is your kid? And they said, yeah, this is my kid. He's born blind, right? Yeah, but he sees now. Well, whose power was he able to see? You better not say by Christ, because if you do, we're going to throw you in jail and excommunicate you from our faith. Okay, well, we're not saying that. He's old. Ask him. He's going to tell you what happened. And then he said, listen, I don't know, guys. I don't know. Only thing I can tell you is I was blind, and somebody put paste on my eyes, told me to wash, and I did it, and now I can see. That's what this story is. I want you to see. And I want you to see how these people are prosecuting against Christ. So here's a story. You know, we all should know our Bible stories, right? And maybe you know this one. Maybe you don't. I don't know. John chapter 9, verse 1. See where I'm at in time. And Jesus passed by, and he saw a man which was blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did this sin? This man, his parents? Or him, or he that was born blind? Who did the sin? Why is this guy blind, and who caused this punishment to come upon him? Jesus answered, neither has this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be manifested in him. Oh, Lord, I mean, what a great thing to be able to say, God is using me as a great tool. I get to be blind all my life until this. But yeah, that's the way it happened. For this very reason I have raised thee up. Jesus answered and said, neither has this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. And I must work the works of him that sent me. I must do the job that God told me I had to do while it is daytime, because the night comes when no man will work. I have to do this when the time period of people's hearts being blessed is in a position for that to happen. There's more to this than just the sun coming up and the sun going down. As long as I'm in the world, as long as I'm here, I even made that quote earlier today, I must work during the day. And that is when Christ is here to teach. Because the night will come when the light has gone out of this world. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. And when he had thus spoke, he spit on the ground, and he made a clay of the spittle, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay. And he said to him, go wash in the pool of Siloam, which is by interpretation sent. He went his way, therefore, and washed his eyes, and became seen. He was no longer blind. The neighbors, therefore, and they which before had seen him that he was blind, they said, is this not him that sat and begged? Some said, oh yeah, this is him. And others said, well, it's kind of like him, but it's not really him. And he said, oh yeah, it's me. It's I. I am he. Therefore they said unto him, how did your eyes get opened? Oh man, were his eyes just opened? Or was his heart opened also? But how did your eyes get opened? And he said, I don't know. A man came who's called Jesus, and he made a clay, and he anointed my eyes, and he said to me, go to the pool of Siloam and wash. And I went and washed, and I received sight. Then they said unto him, where is this guy? Where is he? And he said, I know not. I don't know. They brought to the Pharisees him that afore was blind. And it was the Sabbath day when Jesus made the clay, and he opened his eyes. Ooh, working on the Sabbath day? Ain't no religious man going to work on the Sabbath day. This has to be the work of a sinner. Then the Pharisees also asked him how he had received his sight, and he said unto him, he put clay upon my eyes, and I washed, and I saw. I mean, it's pretty simple. I've already told you once. Told these other guys. Therefore, some said to the Pharisees, this man is not of God, because he keepeth not the Sabbath day. And others say, how can a man that is if he's not of God, and because he didn't keep the Sabbath day, then he must be a sinner. So I ask you the question, how is it that a sinner doeth such miracles? How can I mean, he's a sinner. You can't do miracles if you're a sinner. And there was a division among them. Oh my gosh. How many times are we going to have divisions when it comes to religion? Woo-hoo. forever and ever and ever. You see, even the people who believe alike can't even all believe. We here in this church body are all on different time points of our same journey. I'm believing some things that you don't. You believe some things that I don't. And I disbelieve some things that you do. And you disbelieve some things that I do. But the point of being a church body is that we are all on the same path. And we're on our own little journeys. So you can say, well, yeah, there's some divisiveness. Yeah, there we go. There is some there's twice the best of the word up. Divisiveness in this body. Well, that's what's happening here too. Some of them believed it, some of them didn't. Some of them said, well, he's got to be a sinner. Well, no, he's not a sinner. He did miracles. But he did it on the Sabbath. Do you like knowing the story? Do you like when I read a story to you? But the Jews did not believe concerning him. Did I skip any? 17. They said unto the blind man again, what sayest thou of him? That he has opened your eyes? Tell me again this story. How did it happen? He said, well, he is a prophet. But the Jews did not believe him concerning him that he had been blind. Oh, you weren't really blind. You were faking this all your life, you little fakester. But the Jews did not believe him concerning him that he had been blind and received sight until they called his parents of him that had received his sight. And they asked them, saying, is this your son whom you say was born blind? How then does he now see? Are you in on this too? Are you a part of this trickery, this shenanery going on? His parents answered and said, wait a second. We know that this is our son and that he was born blind. Those things I will tell you are a truth. But what means he now seeth, we don't know. Or who has opened his eyes? We don't know. He's of age. Ask him. Let him speak for himself. These words spoke his parents because, why? Well, they feared the Jews. For the Jews had agreed already, predetermined. They said, oh, listen, if anyone goes against what we believe the truth to be, not what it really is, but what we want it to be, because it fits into our religion, that if any man did not confess that he was Christ, he should be put out of the synagogue. Do what? Okay, I'm saying in my head, gosh, that's not right at all. So I'm sitting there staring at it again. But if any man did confess that he was Christ, whoo, I was going to say my whole religion was going out the window. But so I read it again. These words spoke the parents because they feared the Jews. For the Jews had agreed already that if any man did confess that he was Christ that did this thing, that he should be put out of the synagogue. No longer part of the church. Not part of the church, you ain't going to heaven. Little do they already know. Therefore his parents said, he's of age, ask him. Then again they called the man that was blind and said unto him, instructing him, basically, give God the praise. We know that this man is a sinner. He answered and said, listen, whether he be a sinner or not, I don't know. One thing I do know, that where I was blind, now I see. How about that for an answer? Then they said to him again, what did he do that he opened your eyes? What happened again? And he answered and he told them, I've told you already, and you did not hear. Wherefore would you hear it again? Well, if I tell you a second time, you going to hear it again anymore? No. And would you even be a disciple of his anyway? Then they reviled him and said, Thou art his disciples, but we are Moses' disciples. You might be a follower of him because he did this wonderful, great thing to you, but we're a disciple of Moses because he brought to us the law. Remember earlier when I called it Moses' law? We've been instructed out of the law. We've been instructed out of Moses' law. We've been instructed out of the books. We know that God spoke unto Moses, As for this fellow, we know not where he comes from, or even who he is. This man answered and said unto them, Why herein is there a marvelous thing that you know not from whence he is, and yet he has opened my eyes? Something happened here, people, and you're the leaders and you don't even know what's up? Now we know that God heareth not sinners. But if any man be a worshiper of God and does his will, he hears him. Since the world began, was it not heard that any man opened the eyes of one that was born blind? You ever seen it happen before? What he's trying to say is, come on, guys. I was blind. How else could I have received this sight? Have you been a part of a miracle in your life? And you say, there's no way but by God this happened. And that's what he's saying. Listen, it has never happened before, but it happened to me. And it has to be but by God only. And the one whom did it, God had to send. So since the world began, was it not heard that any man opened the eyes of one that was born blind? If this man were not of God, he could do nothing. They answered and said unto him, Thou wast altogether born in sin, and dost thou teach us? What are you trying to... You're a man born with a mark on you of sin, and now you come and speak these words and try to teach these great leaders? What's wrong with you? Cast him out. Ooh, you're a little bit scared. What self-righteous people they are. Let that ring in your head. Look how self-righteous they are. You're stupid. You're a sinner. You're born blind. And now you're going to try to tell me that it has to be by a God and this man, or he could do nothing? So they answered that thou art altogether born of sin, and dost thou now teach us? And they cast him out. Jesus heard that they had cast him out. And when he had found him, he said unto him, Do you believe on the Son of God? Listen, a lot of things has happened to you. And you're sitting there, you're claiming that whoever did this to you, remember he was blind when it was done. Whoever did this to you has to be of the Son of God. So Jesus heard and they cast him out. And when they had found him, dost thou believe on the Son of God? And he answered and said, Who is he, Lord? Who is he so I might believe? Yeah. And what great thing was done? Tell me, show me, who is it? And Jesus said unto him, Thou hast both seen him, And, bum, 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 it is he that talketh with thee. And he said, Lord, I believe. And he worshiped him. And Jesus said, for judgment I come unto this world. Oh, purposefulness. What is the reason you're here? Is it to heal my eyes? No, a much bigger reason. For judgment I come into this world, that they which see not might see, and they which see might be made blind. Do you see what he's saying? That I might give sight to the ones who are seeking, and that I may remove the sight from the ones who think they've got it when they don't. I will bring condemnation upon them, because it is not through the power of the law, but it is through the power of the one to whom which you are speaking. And some of the Pharisees, we're getting to the end. And some of the Pharisees which were with him heard these words, and they said to him, this is key, people, are we blind also? Then Jesus said unto them, if you were blind, you should have no sin. But now you say, we see, therefore your sin remaineth. Standing in a position to which we believe and practice and hold, are you saying that we're blind also? Yeah, if you can't drop that, then your sin and your blindness remains. You should be like this man who knows. Listen, I don't know who did this, but I want to know who he is. Who is this person? And when he said, it's me, he fell down and he worshiped him. So that takes us, as we end today, that takes us to chapter 10. And I've got this story set up. So whenever you read chapter 10, I want you to see that this thing opens up to more than just Jews and Gentiles. Now we're going to start talking about the holy dead. Verily, verily, I say unto thee, he that entereth not into the door for the sheep. You're talking about that? What are you talking about? 41. 40 and 41. And some of the Pharisees which were with him heard these words and said unto him, hey, listen, are we blind? Are we? And basically, if you have to ask the question, then you have not seen what the truth is. Because if you could see the truth, then your sin would be gone and you would be worshiping the Christ that this blind man who had given sight saw.
That's good.
Huh?
I just wanted you to read the first verse of the end.
Okay. I thought you were saying that I read it wrong, because obviously I do that sometimes. All right, guys, we're done for the day.